Thank you, Dr. Rothman, for a beautiful job on our Haftarah this morning. Good Yom Tov again, everyone. An older man named Sam had three good friends who he gave $20,000 each in an envelope. He made his three friends promise to put their envelopes of money in his coffin after his death so he would have money for the afterlife. They each promised to fulfill the request. After Sam died, they each put their envelopes in the coffin. After walking back together, the first man confessed, "I took out $15,000 and I gave it to the poor and only put in $5,000. The second man said, "I took $10,000 from the money he owed me and put rest of it in the coffin." The third man said, "I'm ashamed of you guys. I put it all in. I wrote a check to Sam for $20,000 and I put it in the envelope. As soon as he cashes it in, it's all his." A few years ago, some of the world's wealthiest individuals decided to do something so they wouldn't end up with the same problem Sam did, to do something more with their money before they passed away. In 2010, 40 of America's wealthiest billionaires joined together in a commitment to give more than half of their wealth away in what was the beginning of the Giving Pledge. Created by Bill and Melinda Gates and Warren Buffett, the Giving Pledge was an invitation for the world's wealthiest individuals to publicly dedicate the majority of their wealth to charitable causes. Why have these enormously successful people decided to give away a majority of their wealth to help others, complete strangers? Those who join the Giving Pledge often write a letter explaining why they made such a decision. I've recently been reading the letters available on the organization's website, and they're absolutely fascinating. Warren Buffett writes on why he has pledged to give away 99% of his wealth before he passes away. He writes, were we to use more than 1% of my wealth on ourselves, neither our happiness nor our well-being would be enhanced. In contrast, that remaining 99% can have a huge effect on the health and welfare of others. That reality sets an obvious course for me and my family. Keep all we conceivably need and distribute the rest to society for its needs. My pledge starts us down that course. Today, the pledge now includes 173 of the world's wealthiest individuals, ranging in age from 30 to 90. Globally, they represent 22 countries, including Israel. Most of the letter writers started poor or middle class. They don't believe in family dynasties and sometimes argue that they would ruin their children's lives if they left them too much money. Their children may disagree. Schools and universities are the most common recipients of their generosity, followed by medical research and Jewish cultural institutions. An incredibly disproportionate percentage of the Giving Pledge participants are Jewish. There were several inspiring letters written by Jews, like this one from Lynn Schusterman. She writes, "I was raised in a household in which giving back was a core value. I remember my father telling a struggling medical student for whom he advanced some tuition payments that he never wanted to be paid back. He wanted that medical student to become successful, to become a good doctor, and to pay it forward by helping someone else. Years later, I grew to understand that this expression of my father's universal ideals probably stemmed from his deeply rooted Jewish values." Well said. Columnist David Brooks wrote an article about the Giving Pledge in which he dreamed what he would do if he too had $1 billion to use for good. These incredible letters also set off my imagination. What would I do if I had $1 billion to use to help others? If I could join the Giving Pledge. Now all I need is a successful hedge fund to get started, and the reality is that probably won't happen. But I can still dream. What would be my dream? What would Rabbi Brian Strauss dream of doing? I'd start with the premise that with so much potential, I could not do it all by myself, that the best way to effect real change is to empower others to work with me to make a difference. That with my $1 billion, could I create a community of thousands willing to work with me with a wide array of interests, brainpower, creativity, and experience. People have so much knowledge to share on what we can do to strengthen countless lives. But ideally, this community of thousands would also have shared ideals, values shaped by centuries of teachings and examples on how to help their fellow humankind. Values they not only share, but believe in, that they've been taught since they were young. No, unlike the Giving Pledge participants, I don't have $1 billion to make this dream come true, and I never will. But I have something a lot more valuable. I have you. And now, as your new senior rabbi, I have the honor of leading an extraordinary community of talented and creative individuals without having anywhere near $1 billion, and that's okay, because I have you. And the reality is, as members of the largest conservative synagogue in America, we can all dream about what we can do to make a collective difference in our city. Because we all share in this community. As Jews, we share values that call upon us to help people, to help others, to help even strangers who are in need. As Beth Yeshurun members, we now share an experience that calls upon us to do more. 1 year ago, we stood together at Lakewood Church, an experience none of us will ever forget. I'll never forget that I got to speak from Pastor Joel Osteen's pulpit, and did so at the old Rockets Arena. How many rabbis in America can say they had congregants so happy to sit in their Yom Kippur seats because they got to sit in their old basketball seats? We were able to be together over the high holidays because fellow Houstonians from the Lakewood community were there for us, and they weren't alone. So many in our city were there for us during our great time of need. In those hectic days after the storm, volunteers, non-Jews from Rice University came into our shul to help. Most had never stepped foot in a synagogue before. They just heard it was a place of worship, so they came to help. In addition, I remember seeing neighbors from the apartments across Beach Nut lifting up heavy objects in our building and helping them move them to higher ground. They were asked, "Why are you helping? You've never been here before." They responded that they were here because they wanted to do the right thing. The help continued. For months after the storm, we received contributions, packages of gift cards, and countless acts of kindness from people throughout this city and across the United States. Now that, thank God, we are back on our feet, just as so many were there for us, can we be there for others more than ever before? In addition, we as Jews have something just as powerful as that shared experience. We share a tradition that calls upon us to do whatever we can to improve the lives of others in need, especially on this holy day. This morning in the Haftarah that we just read, the ancient prophet Isaiah teaches us what he has taught our fellow Jews for thousands of years. Yes, fasting today is important. But if going without food and without water for one day does not make us in the year ahead more generous, more giving, and more helpful to those who often go without food and water for days at a time, then fasting today is actually a complete waste of time. A complete waste of time. Think about that. The rabbis of old, who were so concerned about rituals, still allow a Haftarah reading on this day that teaches us that our fast is worthless if we're not changed tomorrow. No matter how spiritual we may feel now, the real test of this day, the real test of Yom Kippur, is if we are changed tomorrow. Sometimes people will say to me, "Rabbi, I may not be religious in the conventional sense. You may not see me that involved in the community, but I'm a very spiritual person. The implication is that being spiritual, following a religion solely of the individual heart and mind, is a purer, more authentic way of communicating with God, more authentic than the physical act of attending services, giving tzedakah, or performing good deeds for others. But I always respectfully disagree. As Rabbi Harold Kushner writes, the most moving religious faith becomes real only when it's translated into behavior, into doing things you might not otherwise do because of your religious faith. That's the more authentic, that's the more Jewish, spiritual way of communicating with God. The great Jewish theologian Martin Buber was once asked, "Where can I find God?" His answer, God is not found in the hearts of the most fervent spiritual believer. God is found in the righteous actions of people. For centuries, our rabbis have said the same. When someone acts towards another person as his religious faith tells him to, God comes and bridges the gap between them. They're joined for those moments by bonds of holiness. The religion of your heart becomes real only when it is translated into action. Spirituality is what you feel, but Judaism is what you do. No matter how spiritual we feel today, the real test is if we are changed tomorrow. We share this value with good people of other religions as well. But how often do we all forget? A rabbinic colleague of mine once crashed his bike and was laying on the side of the road. He was in the middle of nowhere in Arizona in 150-degree heat. Alone and hurt, his phone wasn't working, so he was desperately trying to get someone to stop and help him. Car after car sped by. Eventually, a woman appeared on her bike. He was so excited. Maybe she could get him some help and call his wife. So he said to the woman on the bike as she approached, please, you have a phone. It's an emergency. She replied, no, I'm so sorry. I can't help you. I don't have time. I'm late for church. I think it's safe to say that God would have wanted her to stop. But how often do we do the same? We're just so busy. So busy that we don't see people in need, or maybe we do see them, but we look the other way. Yes, we need to take care of ourselves first, our children or our parents, our careers, our own homes, our community, our Jewish state of Israel. Of course, these priorities must always come first. But as Isaiah reminded us this morning, can we stretch a little more this year to find the time to make a difference? In time, not just in money. In his Giving Pledge letter, Warren Buffett also wrote the following: my pledge does not leave me contributing the most precious asset, which is time. Many people, including, I'm proud to say, my 3 children, give extensively of their own time and talents to help others. Gifts of this kind are often proved more valuable than money. For example, a struggling child befriended and nurtured by a caring mentor receives a gift whose value far exceeds what can be bestowed by a check. He is right. Now at Beth Yeshurun, we have done something that will make it easier for you to donate your time. In a few minutes, we'll be passing out these social action cards. Our social action chairs and I have visited many places over the past 6 months. There are so many needs in this city, we could not choose everything. But we chose programs that we thought people of all ages at Beth Yeshurun could get involved with. We have options for all of us, including our teens, who I know are always looking to fulfill their community service hours. You have an option. We have an option here of 2 programs that are already going on here at Beth Yeshurun. But before I explain more about the cards and how I'll ask you to fill those cards out on this important morning, let me end with the following. No matter how much you have or may not have in the bank, $1 billion, $1 million, $1,000, it doesn't matter. All I care about is that you join me with whichever project you can do to make a difference in the greater Houston community. That's one of the main reasons I accepted this honor and blessings of becoming your senior rabbi. Elie Wiesel, may he rest in peace, would tell the story how both Theodor Herzl, the founder of modern Zionism, and Sigmund Freud, the founder of psychoanalysis, lived in the same district in Vienna, Austria, in the late 1800s. But how amazing is it that they never met each other? Maybe that's a good thing. What could have happened? Herzl would have laid on Sigmund Freud's couch and said, "Im tirtzu," I have a dream of building a Jewish state. Freud would have responded, "A dream? Lay down on this couch, let me cure you of this dream." But you know what? That's what the world is constantly doing to all of us. Don't dream. You're too busy. What you do won't matter anyway. There are just too many problems. Let's never listen to those negative thoughts, because it's been said that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. To that, our religious tradition adds, "Lo elecha hamlacha ligmor." You are not obligated to finish the task, but neither are you free to desist from trying. I don't want this dream I have to ever be cured. Years from now, when I retire and become a rabbi emeritus, I want to look back and say that Beth Yeshurun made a tremendous difference in our community. Will you help me make this dream come true? This year, let's start working on a dream that can truly be more powerful than $1 billion. Because as a congregation, we are strong when we care for the weak. We are rich when we care for the poor. And we are invulnerable when we care for the vulnerable. This new year, let us prove to Isaiah that we will take his eternal words to heart. Thank you, everyone. And now, our social action chairs and our volunteers are going to be passing out these cards. And I want to thank our social action chairs, Melissa Levine and Samantha Melman, for all of their help in organizing all of these wonderful programs. When you get the cards, you'll see there's a lot of choices of what you can do to get involved. And again, it's people of all ages, from grade school, middle school, all the way up to any age. You'll see the different choices here. And then I invite you to do one of two things. Either A, if you can decide today, take one of your labels. That's why there's an extra label on your ticket this year. You may have asked, why do we have 3 labels on our ticket this year? The idea is take off one of those labels, put it here on this spot, tear at the perforated part, and then push in the circle of the social action project you or someone in your family would like to get involved in. Then when you leave synagogue today, you'll see collection boxes as you walk out. Drop it in the box, and we will contact you within the next few weeks to get you set up with whichever program someone in your family signed up to do. If you want more time, that's okay. Take the card home, and then I invite you tomorrow or Friday, email the different chair of whatever particular program you or someone in your family may be interested in volunteering for this upcoming year. All I ask is that you stretch a little bit more this year. If you're already heavily involved in our community, great. Can you do even more this year? If you've always been looking for an opportunity to get more involved, now's your chance to give back. We made it as easy as possible for you. We just want your time to give back to those in our community who are in desperate need of help at this time.